parts to this, which I just realised are kind of slightly related, but on the your use of anthropocosmic, and it speaks to me a lot of the macrocosm correspondence. On the question of conflation of that with spirituality, it makes me realise that nobody has ever told me what they mean by spirituality.
Yeah.
And I used to refuse to use the word for my own reasons. Here I kind of use it. not using it here would be sort of maybe as challenging as not using the verb to be, and there might be some... But I don't know what it means. But I have a... Anyway, I won't go further with that, but I wondered if you could also elaborate, and this totally relates, at least etymologically, but on breath and wind and Maya. I thought that was very interesting what you said, but I wondered if you could say a little bit more about that.
Yeah. Let's see. So breath and wind and Maya. Yeah, the whole Maya connection was pretty new to me. I haven't thought about that very much. Like Maya in the sense of a weaving, like weaving fate. Like that makes sense. But then how is that particularly connected with the breath? But then the connection of simply just the breath and the wind, like that makes a lot of sense to me. You know? Yeah, and maybe to most of you guys. So maybe this just came to me. Imagine that. Okay, so if we're breathing and we're sharing breath with others around us, with cosmic winds, in a sense, we are not breathing, but we are being breathed, you know? And so in that sense, it's fairly related to fate and to like something outside of ourselves, but yet something completely within ourselves. Like this breath, this life force is, it's helping us be alive. Like we may or may not have chosen to be incarnated in this body. Regardless, like we still, there's some, we're here, whether or not it's for a reason. And the breath is helping us to stay alive. Like it is our life, in a way. And so the fact that we often don't breathe consciously and voluntarily. Like it's just this perpetual rhythm that's happening, and somehow our body knows how to work like that and knows how to share breath with others. And so maybe in that sense, the Maya and the fate, I think that is making more sense now to me.
Did you mean in that case Maya as fate particularly? I kind of understood that as illusory nature of existence also. Did you have that connotation when you said it?
Is Maya fate? These are deep questions. I don't know.
I can help with that.
Yeah, please.
The word Maya etymologically has to do with measurement. So literally refers to what is measured. And so I think of that being connected to fate in terms of, you get your measure or allotment. And I know in a lot of South Asian traditions it's said that there is a number of breaths that you are allotted.
Right.
That's one of the reasons why control of the breath is a technique for the achievement of immortality, which is the initial context to the development of yoga traditions, by the way. So there's some connection with Maya and measure and fate and breath.
Very helpful. Yes.
This is great, Elizabeth. I really loved it. I have two questions, and the first one, it sort of explains the second one. First one. This is my ignorance, but just not knowing anything about yoga, I've always heard that it was a dualistic system. And then my sense is that is that just not right? In other words, like it was, because it was dualistic, I just sort of always avoided it,
Yeah. I mean, I think there's arguments for and against.
both ways. Because like when you, like yoga in ecology by Chappell,
Yeah.
I'm assuming that is non-dualistic. Or the anthropocosmic yoga, is that wouldn't be so easily dualistic, would it?
Well, that's a hard one, yeah, because like the whole sense of anthropocosmic unity, like does that mean it's non-dual? Or can there be this multiplicity and they're all intertwined, and so how does that different than a non-dual system? Again, very, like that's a deep philosophical question, and I don't quite know the answer.
So people have been arguing about that.
Yeah.
Well,
I
that's
think so.
encouraging, because I mean, anything dualistic, I just move away from forever.
Yeah.
All right, so that justifies my
Dualistic.
second. Now here comes the confession. Right? When you were talking about the practices and going on a bowl of water, I thought, I just sort of hated the fact that I haven't been teaching that way my whole life. Now, so be honest. Aren't you kind of astounded that we're not teaching that way?
Well, yeah.
I mean, it just seems
Yeah.
like such a natural thing.
Yeah,
And then to build
yeah.
yoga or qigong into,
Yeah.
I just say for myself, teaching cosmology, it just seems,
Yeah.
they go together so
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
Instead of
not-
just
yeah.
doing the verbal thing in
Totally.
class.
Totally. Yeah, and so the whole verbal thing in class, it's very helpful, and it seems like what might need to happen is just a more explicit teaching or a more explicit drawing out of students, like the body that they're interacting through, the world that they're sitting in, and the relations between all of that, you know. And so it. I mean, I wholeheartedly believe that yoga and Tai Chi, music, energy work in general, I think it needs to be part of the curriculum.
Yeah, not like another class, but
Yeah,
like woven
exactly,
in. That's what I was
exactly.
feeling as you're talking.
Yeah, yeah, I
A
think.
bowl of water, I can
I
bring
know.
that in.
Yeah, yeah, totally. And yeah, and not to mention, like, every now and again we could go outside and then we could see how the sun is shining, or see the stars as the night class is happening, or just like if a teacher is seeing students falling asleep, like just have everybody get up and move around, or encourage breathing, like yawning, encourage napping, because encourage like there's ways to do it that doesn't necessarily have to be religious or spiritual. And I think that's often why there's a problem introducing embodied practices, because oftentimes they come from traditions that have a religious or spiritual bent, and we're trying to be neutral. But I think that the body can be the body, and breath can be as powerful as it is, and just drawing attention to the fact that we are in a body, in a world, could help learning happen so much, like in such a richer way, Yeah, I think we need education reform.
Yeah.
And I think it's
Yeah.
happening. It's
Yeah.
happening in CIS. It's happening in other places like CIS.
And in the military.
Yeah.
These kinds of things are catching on quite a bit
Yeah.
in the military, which is, it is what it is.
Yeah.
Just imagine how different our kindergarten experiences or preschool experiences if instead of being taught how to share a crayon with your next door neighbor, you taught that you're sharing breath with your next door neighbor.
Yeah.
It's like that's just might be a
Yeah.
little bit too deep.
It might be, but I bet they already know it.
Oh yeah.
And,
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Some might be actually easier next to share that crayon because
Exactly.
you're sharing breath. So.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. It seems like a sense of ethics and responsibility can happen so much freer if we realize that kind of relationship. Yeah.
I can add a footnote to Brian's question about is yoga dualistic or not. There's a list of 6 classical schools of Indian philosophy that's popular to kind of break down the tradition in that way. And yoga is usually connected with Sankhya, which is one of those. And that's the whole metaphysics of Purusha, which is a kind of formless spirit and Prakriti or nature and their interactions, and then all the qualities of that interaction and how the elements develop, et cetera, et cetera. So that's this whole metaphysics that yoga has traditionally been connected with, but it's not originally Sankhya, and it's not always only Sankhya. So, like, for example, when we talk about Buddhist or Jaina forms of yoga, they have nothing whatsoever to do with Sankhya. Or they might be in a polemical relationship to it, et cetera. So we've been talking about a lot of decouplings of yoga from various worldviews, haven't we? And that's also been at stake for the Indians, for South Asians. Yoga has always been kind of like coupling and decoupling with various kinds of interpretation of the world.
Thanks.
Yeah, Brian's comment about duality also kind of got me thinking about there are a lot of problems with duality, obviously, but then it seems like for any kind of dynamic, creative cosmos to exist, you need at least polarity, if not duality. So not like two separate things with no connection to one another, but two poles which relate and can dance with one another and are mutually constitutive of one another. And I'm thinking about an example of that. I was thinking of the Tao and how the Tao is related to, I mean, obviously there's the yin-yang symbol, right? And it's related to water usually because of its propensity to flow and to take on the forms of whatever it happens to be in. And it got me thinking about the polarity of the water molecule, right? The H and the hydrogen and the two oxygens, and it's the positive and the negative charge of the sides of each side of this molecule allows all of the molecules to behave in a fluid way at a large scale. And that what you're saying about the anthropocosmic relationship is similarly polar, like that. And it seems like a fitting analogy to the structure of the water molecule and
Totally.
the structure of the relationship between anthropos and cosmos.
Mm-hmm.
They're distinct but mutually constitutive. Right?
Yeah. It's reminding me of, I think it's D.H. Lawrence, who has a quote about, water, we got hydrogen and oxygen, but then there's a third thing. That, and it's that third thing that really helps it be water.
Right.
And I think there's another quote maybe about how what's holding together the hydrogen and the oxygen, it's love.
Mm-hmm.
And so that kind of relationality, intimate intertwining, that's what's driving the water to be water.
Mm-hmm.
And it's what's driving humans to be in the world, connected to the world, and working, embodying the cosmos. Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, so I think love is a pretty cool term to look at. And luckily at CIS we can study that.
I'm sure you have from what you study, but have you seen the work where on rice and water crystals, where how moldy the rice goes or how water crystallizes is a product of intention?
Yeah, I haven't seen the mold in the rice, but I have seen Masaru Emoto's work with the ice crystals.
It's also been done with rice.
Also, yeah.
The rice lasts for longer if you love it rather than hate it much longer.
Yeah, and likewise plants, they grow fuller, healthier if you love it and sing to it and have a relationship with it instead of keeping distance. Yeah.
I'm thinking about the word yoga, and I'm thinking about bhakti yoga, I'm thinking about love.
Yeah, totally.
And there's this place inside of me that says when you are in devotion to something, to a part of yourself, to other, to the planet, to the divine, that implies a separation. And what we're talking about is being that. We're talking about union with, not in a sense of losing our separate identification, but really when you say when I meditate on that water is me. when I share that crayon, I'm sharing, when I share that breath, I am the other. And so to me, like spirituality and mantra and breath work and all of that, what we're trying to do is, instead of devoting ourselves to something, we are becoming it. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and like with bhakti, that sense of longing, devotion, like attraction to, and like just wanting so bad to do, like to be in service of the other, and to just give all of yourself, all of your work to the other. And so in that sense, realizing how all of your efforts is that's basically the other attracting you, and that kind of that polarity, that loving connection. Yeah, it seems like Bhakti Yoga has a lot to say about this. Yeah. Anybody else have anything to share, or any questions, or? Yes.
Did you find, you were talking about practices, did you find one practice in particular that you used to embody the universe?
Personally, I think that's hard to find one practice. But yeah, I feel like just the simple practice of asanas, of moving the body, that really helps me. And I find like whenever like I get up in the morning and I'm all like, I'm a pretty good morning person, I guess, but I'm somewhat groggy. And then just being able to start doing yoga pretty much immediately, and then find my dream world self become closer and closer to, okay, so now I'm feeling it. And then being able to stretch and feel out into who I am and get grounded. That personally helps me a lot as a daily practice. But then thinking of chanting, that means a lot to me, and that kind of the reverberation of sound. And especially like to have that a sacred component, where there is a sense of this bhakti, and just really learning how to pour out love through sound.
Do you have a favorite chant?
My favorite chant?
Anyone.
Well, I'm thinking of Hello Namji.
Okay.
Would that be okay?
Of course.
Would you like to sing it too?
Okay.
Okay, so this is a chant. It's not necessarily yogic, but it is yogic. It's a mind training verses, and so like you're training the mind. This is a Tibetan chant that Aaron taught me a little while back. And just to give a brief translation, what the Tibetan is saying is eternal, infallible protector, Lama, know me or hear me. The freedoms and endowments of this life are extremely difficult to find. Life is impermanent and death is certain. The causes and effects of virtuous and non-virtuous actions are unfailing. And the three realms of samsara are an ocean of misery. Reflecting on these thoughts, may I turn my mind to the Dharma. And so it's a sense of, it's very full of life. It might, some of it might sound like, well, if I did this, like, like, do I have to meditate on the fact that I'm going to die, or that karma is possibly a real thing, or that this human birth is precious, or that life is, suffering? So it's like, okay, well, thinking about all of those really fundamental aspects of the human experience, like let's think about it and let's help it to guide our actions. Do you want to come up here and sing it with me?
You want me to come up there? Okay.
Or I can sit by you.
Oh, I don't know. Yeah, let's sit down.
Okay.
Or you can just stay
Well,
there.
if you both sit there,
Okay.
then,
I'll do whatever you want.
I'll
I
look
give
at
up.
Okay, then stand right
We
here.
can stand.
Okay.
Okay. Should we do it thrice?
Nice.
Okay. Namo
Metingigam pola magenta jardination tune parka Gitsemi tachu etchenyen gedikliki gudrelu mame Komsum kowadr nagat soinam drene daklo chilage warshok Numetingigam pola magenta jardination tune parka Gitsemi tachu etchenyen gedikliki gudrelu mame Komsum kowadr nagat soinam drene daklo chilage warshok Numetingigam pola magenta jardination tune parka Gitsemi tachu etchenyen gedikliki gudrelu mame Komsum kowadr nagat soinam drene daklo chilage warshok. Cool. Thanks. Thanks for the opportunity to share that. Yeah.
You gotta sign it, you know.
Yeah, that's one of the chants that really is dear to me, I think. Yeah. Good timing. Anybody else have anything you'd like to share?
Yeah, actually, the yoga studio a block away, it's Bhakti Yoga, Vinyasa Flow, but they also have a call and response chanting at the beginning and end
Cool.
of each class, and you walk into your yoga practice. And in some of the more popular classes, like Stephanie Steiner, or especially Rusty Wells, who opened the studio, there's a lot of people, like 100, 150 people, and so everyone chanting all at once. It's a pretty
Yeah.
powerful experience.
That's very cool. What's the name of it? Is it
Urban Flow.
Urban Flow?
And so
Cool.
it's also donation based. So for students, it's nice to have a $10 yoga class instead of like,
Yeah.
what are they, like 25 in a lot of
Yeah.
places. So, and Rusty's a fabulous teacher, very, very conscious, and he teaches in a freestyle fashion, so every class is different.
Cool.
So it's really fun.
Cool. Thanks for letting us know about that.
Also on the green yoga side, I think there's a registry of like certified green yoga studios. So in other words, yoga studios that are explicitly making
Yeah.
themselves as ecologically sensitive as possible. Maybe Laura
Yeah,
set that up.
I think that might be part of the Green Yoga Association website.
So you can go on their website and see, like I know there's one in Pacific on Ocean Yoga,
Yeah.
things like that, et cetera.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
good
and
to know.
likewise, I think they might have a list of organizations where you can purchase yoga stuff without it, like, and know that it's more environmentally friendly than not. Yeah. Anybody else feel like this is starting to wrap up? Yes, Matt?
Just a thought about something you said at the beginning of your talk that I really liked, where you compared yoga to philosophy, saying that yoga is about sort of stretching the body,
Yeah.
and philosophy is about stretching the mind. Certainly yoga can be about stretching the mind too,
Yeah.
and vice versa.
Yeah.
But it got me thinking about how when we're philosophizing, the different thoughts and concepts that come into play are kind of like mental postures, and
Mhm.
when we contort our mind in these particular ways, we're able to recognize, through analogy with the cosmos, different
Totally.
aspects of reality.
Totally.
So it's a fun image that I
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
I'm gonna keep playing with.
Yeah. Yeah, I was thinking about that the other day, and I was thinking, So the act of trying to understand the story of the universe is a yogic act. And like you are stretching your mind to understand your place in the universe, like where everything came from, how you're here at all, where it possibly could be going from here, and like understanding deep time, that's like stretching. And so yeah, it seems like all kinds of thought experiments could be seen in terms of a yogic discipline, where you're training the mind, getting clarity, like expanding your awareness. Yeah, and just to bring up Alex Gray again, it seems like that's kind of what he's getting at with his paintings and his artwork. And yeah, the whole notion of having psychedelic art and trying to encapsulate, so what could this experience be like, and then painting it, so like stretching like through psychedelics, like expanding the mind, sometimes called entheogens, like generating the divine within, that kind of stretching your mind, your awareness, your body, and understanding in maybe a deeper or more felt sense your relation with the world in your body as a microcosm, as an anthropocosmos. And I think that's why Alex Gray uses the term anthropocosmos, or anthropocosm, and why his Chapel of Sacred Mirrors, cosm, is such a big deal for him. If you ever get a chance to hear Alex Gray speak, definitely take him up on it, and he just might be speaking about anthropocosm. Yeah. Who is next? Yes.
Is that cool? Do you want to stop?
No, we can go all night.
Definitely go on. This sort of goes back to what you just said, and what you said, Matt, would strike, if I was going to try and put it into words, if I was going to try and put spirituality into words, what you both just said in your ways would be how I'd go about it. I don't think I could do it as well, but that would be how I'd go about it. Also, your the comments about philosophy, I hear that and say that could be science just as much. It's obviously, it's like scientific inquiry is kind of not always as good as it can be, but that's just as true of philosophy and religion as well. So in all of that, and in all of those connections come, I suppose, my difficulty with spirituality as not an inquiry that can be set up alongside other inquiries, but the kind of character of all inquiries at their best. So when you sort of talk about science and spirituality, which so often gets done, I think it's kind of ridiculous.
Yeah.
My sense would be it's the pervasive quality of inquiry, which could maybe be rephrased as the Tao as well.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it. Yeah. Yeah, so maybe spirituality, maybe in the sense of like finding meaning, like seeing the world as meaningful, and you can do that from a very scientific perspective, and in fact you can do it from an atheistic scientific perspective. But then we could call it spirituality, because it, like, if you find that sense of meaning and wonder and awe, some sense of mystery or gratitude, then maybe that has something to do with like spirituality. Time to meditate.
The word attention. attention means to stretch toward.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
So yoga has attention,
Mhm. Yeah.
disciplining that capacity for attention. It seems to be a common thread here with yoga, philosophy, science, inquiry.
Totally.
Why don't we express our gratitude?
Yeah.